Hello, today is Monday, January 26, 2026. I'm Tom Worth, and Minnesota has blown up again. Trump is finally backing off a little. He talked to Governor Tim Walz today and said that he at some point would be reducing ICE presence there. Of course, no timeline as to when. He blames it on Minnesota for not cooperating. What Attorney General Pam Bondi did over the weekend was demand three conditions in order to reduce the ICE presence there. One of them was turning over the voter rolls of Minnesota. So you can see what that's about. Even the NRA is turning on Trump and the Republicans. Even the Republican governors are turning on Trump. When you've lost the NRA and the Republican governor of Oklahoma, as red as it gets, and among many others, a lot of Republican governors are coming out against this. A lot of people are facing elections in November, and they are running scared now. That is the only thing that drives these politicians in Washington and in the state capitals. I'd love to say that suddenly they have grown a conscience. These GOP elected officials, they have not. Look at the ones who are looking at re-election this November. That's by and large who is coming out against ICE and Trump, telling him to tone it down, that we've got to find a reasonable course of action here while still getting in their digs and barbs against Minnesota's Tim Walz. I'm looking at the Wall Street Journal today about this, and there's this op-ed there. And the reason I don't typically look at the Journal, I favor the Financial Times, the New York Times, obviously, but the Journal it's just really Republican, and it's pro-Trump. And it's kind of shocking that that is the case, but they're pro-business, and they are, look at who owns them, of course, but they are Republican. And when they're going in on this this is the editorial board of the Wall Street Journal. It's not some random person. They say videos of an event aren't always definitive, but this is how it looks to us. Preti attempted foolishly to assist a woman who had been pepper sprayed by agents. Foolishly, they say, because the title of the article is "Time for ICE to Pause in Minneapolis. Alex Preti made a mistake, but he wasn't a, quote, domestic terrorist." So they lead off the article by blaming this VA ICU nurse, this 37-year-old guy. They say the Trump administration's spin on this simply isn't believable. They're calling this person a domestic terrorist. Again, Stephen Miller and Kristi Noem, just like they did Kristi Noem said the fact that this is where they lose the NRA. Kristi Noem, the Homeland Security Secretary, said the fact that he carried a gun, and she said to magazines, meant he, quote, arrived at the scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals and to kill law enforcement. That is what she said. The NRA is all bent out of shape about this, because this is why they exist, for Americans to be able to lawfully carry weapons. And even if they're concealed, they have a permit to carry a concealed weapon, they can do that. That's why the NRA exists. And for Kristi Noem and Stephen Miller to go off on these people saying that they should basically expect to be murdered by ICE if they are carrying a weapon legally during a protest, that is wrong. And you have the head of the FBI saying that it is against Minnesota law to carry these weapons in these magazines, and it absolutely is not against the law in Minnesota to do any such thing. These people just lie. They just lie. Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, Kristi Noem, Stephen Miller, of course, his job is to lie. But Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, they just sit there and lie to the American people. And some of the American people are not having it. And in fact, some Republicans are not having it. Some elected Republicans are not having it. That is why you see Trump striking a somewhat conciliatory tone, saying he talked to Tim Walz today, saying that they are on the same page, saying that they will be able to work to reduce the ICE presence there, which is progress. I know it doesn't sound like much, but there were 2,000 federal immigration officers there in Minnesota when Renee Good was murdered a couple weeks ago. So his conciliatory action there was to send 1,000 more, which brought it to 3,000. And there are now reports that there are around possibly 4,000 ICE agents there. There are 600 Minneapolis police officers and 3,000 to 4,000 ICE agents. And across the board, these Republicans have blamed the city of Minneapolis and the state of Minnesota for not doing their part to quell the riots that are incited by ICE and by Trump. There's really nothing you can do about this if you're Minnesota. You are ordered to not get involved by the federal government, but then you are also blamed for not getting involved in quelling your citizens' rage. There was no rage. Nothing was going on in Minneapolis before Trump sent ICE there. I watched the Minneapolis chief of police yesterday on Face the Nation. He said the Minneapolis Police Department did not shoot anyone the entire year in 2025. So they didn't shoot anyone, whereas ICE has shot 3 people in the first month of this year and murdered 2 of them. ICE is the problem. It's not the solution. Everybody knows it. Everybody's trying to bend over backwards to defend Trump and Kristi Noem and ICE and Stephen Miller on this. They can't do it. Again, I'm going to say this again. When you've lost the NRA and when you've lost the Republican governor of Oklahoma, among other Republican governors, you've lost. And that's why you will see Trump backing down on this. In the Senate, we now have possibly another government shutdown. It sailed right through the House last week, the funding measures that are due to expire at the end of January. But the Senate Democrats are saying they need to strip out funding for DHS, for Department of Homeland Security. Now, in there is, and that's all because of ICE, obviously. In there is a $20 million funding for body cameras on ICE. And in true Republican fashion, they said, well, we want that money, but not just for body cameras, and certainly not if you're going to require all ICE agents to wear body cameras. We'll take the $20 million to fund ICE, but we're not going to make them all wear body cameras. Because some of them were wearing body cameras who murdered Preti on Saturday, and you will be able to see once and for all what did not happen, which is everything that Kristi Noem sat up there and said happened. So this is going to get interesting. Will we have another government shutdown? Like another later this week? The Democratic senators are aligned on this, even Chuck Schumer. As the week goes on, maybe cooler heads will prevail. Maybe Trump will pull ICE out just to get the funding passed. I don't know. There's a lot to be determined on this. But that's where we're at today in Minnesota. Hopefully we can get ICE out of there. It's not going to end ICE. He's already talking about California. And if you thought Minnesota fraud was something, wait till you see what's been going on in California. So he's just setting the stage to have a massive ICE presence in California next. And we will see how that goes with Gavin Newsom. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching. I appreciate y'all. And stay safe, stay warm.